sit on it. I got it. It's underneath me. Turn it off. Hey, how are you? The blue. You need to.
Thank you everyone for joining us. If you'd like to take your seats.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to Latina Equal Pay Day. I'm Don DePiro, your president and CEO of the Columbus Chamber of Commerce, and the Columbus Chamber was thrilled to be one of the first organizations in the city to sign on to Women's Equal Pay Day. As wonderful a day that this is, we hope in the near future that we won't need this, that what we'll be celebrating is true equal pay. Over a lifetime, a Latina woman will earn $1 million less than a white man. And that's a problem. And we need to resolve it. We need to plant the flag right now and say, we're going to correct this, we're going to fix it, and we're going to move forward. And we start and continue right now. I'd like to thank and congratulate the work of the Columbus Women's Commission. Our wonderful host, how about a hand for La Plaza Tapatia? And again, your chamber stands ready and as a strong partner in making equal pay for all women a real thing. So in the future, we'll just have a celebration and the fight will be over. With that, I'd like to bring up the great mayor of our wonderful city, Mayor Andy Ginther.
Good morning. What a great day here in the city of Columbus. We couldn't ask for a better partner in Don DePiro and the Chamber, so committed to continuing to grow our economy, support small and emerging businesses, and help our local economy continue to grow and thrive. So, Don, to you and your team, thank you for your commitment to this work. To the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I know that Councilmember Barosa de Padilla will be joining us. So thrilled to have her voice and leadership in city government. As Don mentioned, Plaza Tapatia, they've been incredible partners for years. We did some incredible work with vaccination outreach because of the partnership with Plaza Tapatia and the team here. So grateful for their continued commitment. To Shannon Ginther and members of the Women's Commission, if you're part of or have been served on the Women's Commission, could you just raise your hand so we could thank you for your service and your work? And we're just so grateful for these commissioners and our new Columbus Commitment adopters. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today with so many incredible partners, leaders, advocates, and entrepreneurs to highlight the importance of Latina Equal Pay Day and to champion full, unfettered pay equity in the city of Columbus. Pay equity isn't just simply the right thing to do. It's also critical to economic growth and job creation. I mean, just think of what Don just told us. If Latinas are making, during the course of their careers, $1 million less, that's less money going into our economy, less money buying goods and services here in our economy, and most importantly, less wealth she can pass on to her children. I mean, if we want to see shared prosperity in every family and every neighborhood sharing in our success as a community, pay and gender equity has to be a top priority. All women deserve to have their work, skills, and contributions valued and compensated equitably. Unfortunately, this remains far from a reality, particularly for women of color. In fact, the pay gap for Latinas has worsened since the start of the pandemic. We need to do more as a community to reverse these unacceptable and I would argue unsustainable trends. Women and families across Columbus deserve better, and we're committed to take meaningful, measurable actions that address gender and race-based inequities wherever they exist. Now more than ever, we need passionate and committed partners like the Columbus Women's Commission to help make pay equity a reality for our city. The Commission launched the Columbus Commitment in 2017 and is constantly enlisting additional employers to sign a voluntary pledge to close the wage gap for their workers. I've always said that you can't solve the problem unless you know your data and know your policies, and I can speak from experience. We had issues with gender and pay equity in the mayor's office, and we didn't even know it until we looked at the numbers. And once you know better, you have to do better. And that's the important part, is for us to lead by example. Know your numbers, know your data. Identify challenges and obstacles that may have shown up. It's not like people wake up every day saying, I want to discriminate against women and people of color. But if you don't look at the numbers and the data and change the systems, then ultimately the disparities and inequities grow. As I always say, it's not enough to call out an inequity or a form of racism or discrimination. Anybody can do that. Real leaders have to own the remedy, and that's exactly what this work is all about. This commitment provides employers with the tools and knowledge they need to assess where they stand now and to identify what more can be done to bring about and realize pay equity within the workplace. I'm so excited to welcome our newest adopters of this pledge, and I'm grateful to everyone who chose to be here to recognize this important day together. And now, I'd like to turn it over to an incredible agitator and stirrer of change and reform, my much better half, the First Lady and the Chair of the Columbus Women's Commission, Shannon Ginther.
Thought for a minute he was just going to give me a handshake. Thought I might be in trouble. Welcome today. On behalf of the Women's Commission, I'd like to thank the Hispanic Chamber, the Columbus Chamber, our commissioners, and all employers who are here today to help recognize Latina Equal Pay Day. Although it is wonderful to be with you all, this day serves as a sobering reminder that much more needs to be done for women to advance pay equity, and in particular, Latina women and pay equity in the workplace. Simply put, no woman should have to work an extra 12 months to earn what a white man made last year. And yet, this is the harsh reality for Latina women in the United States. It's vital that we address the practices, policies, rhetoric, and antiquated thinking that contributes to this ongoing injustice in every sector and in every industry. Women are central to the health, stability, and well-being of our families, our community, and our economy. An investment in women is an investment in all of us. And that's really what the Columbus Women's Commission and the Columbus Commitment are all about. Empowering women to reach their full potential, ensuring equal pay for equal work, and lighting the way toward positions of leadership, influence, and impact. For those signing the pledge today, you will be joining a community of 366 local adopters who, like you, are fiercely committed to building a more equitable and inclusive workplace. The Columbus Commitment puts pay equity front and center. And by building upon the incredible progress we've already made and bringing even more businesses on board, we will inch ever closer to more fully realizing a society in which pay equity is not just an aspiration, but a reality. Thank you for your dedication to closing the wage gap, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today on Latina Equal Pay Day. So let's get to signing. Today, we have with us an incredible group. Let me find the latest list, including Catherine Clark and Diana Martinez of Columbus Mattress Wholesale, Tanya Batiste of Drew Alexander Consulting, Annette Vasquez of Flower Days, Lashandra Baker of Lashandra B. Baker Entertainment, LLC, Ella Williams of Posh Tea Time Company, Marcella Baldwin of Sinesta Columbus Downtown, Fernando Alcuder of Toro Market, and Amanda Rowalt of Work Balance Family. Okay, let's sign. Thank you all again for signing the pledge and joining the Columbus Commitment. We're a more powerful and inclusive coalition thanks to your participation, and we're grateful to have you as part of this endeavor. We also today have with us an incredible panel, and I want to kick it off by turning it over to Lillian Morales Laster, the director of the Latina Mentoring Academy, which works to promote and support talented Latina professionals. She will be moderating a discussion today with our amazing Latina leaders who have come to speak with us. Lillian?
Thank you. Can you hear me? All right, I'll talk louder. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Mayor Ginther. We're going to get started by, that's too loud. We're going to get started by having each of you ladies introduce yourselves, tell us where you're employed, and then we can get started on the questions. Claudia?
Hi, good morning. My name is Claudia de Leon. I am co-owner of La Mega Media, and I am also president of the Columbus Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning, buenos días, mi gente. I am Councilmember Lourdes Barroso de Padilla. I am your newest and your first Latina City Council member. And I am so excited to be here. I'm also an alumnus of the Latina Mentoring Academy. So glad that we have representation from so many women who have been part of our program.
Good morning. My name is Lily Cavanaugh, and I am the Executive Director of the Ohio Latino Affairs Commission. It is my honor to serve you in state government.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ronnie Marquez Posey, and I serve as a Bureau Chief for Trade and Veteran Services for the state of Ohio in the Office of Workforce Development. I also serve as a commissioner for the Columbus Women's Commission, and I also serve on the Women's Fund.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for being here with us this morning. We're going to start with you, Lourdes. Can you tell us why the Columbus Commitment and addressing the gender and race-based wage gap is important for our community? And I was going to tell you to also just tell us also how some first steps for businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I also forgot to mention, this is one of my newest hats, is I'm also a member of the Women's Commission. So a couple things, a couple sobering facts. So Latina Equal Pay Day is further in the year than it ever has been before. So last year we celebrated Latina Equal Pay Day near the end of October, beginning of November. So we've actually backslid almost more than a month from where we were last year. And I want to also be clear that when we talk about the pay gap, especially when we talk about the pay gap in communities of color, so for Black and Latina women, for Native American women, oftentimes people think that there's an educational gap, and that is a false. It does not matter if you have your PhD. It does not matter if you have your GED. there is a pay gap for women, period. And the pay gap for women exists because there have been sexist and racist practices that have kept that gap and have kept us from achieving and closing that gap. And those are things that we're still battling today. So Latina women make 54 cents on the dollar to their white, male, non-Hispanic counterparts. And over the course of a lifetime, literally we would have to work until we are 90 years old, and it will cost us more than $1 million. We could lose $1 million in our lifetime. And so when we talk about the investment in Latinas, when we talk about an investment in women, it is an investment in communities, because what we know to be true is that Latinas are, and Black women are increasingly becoming the heads of household, whether they have a partner or not. So that means that we are making more money than even our partners, but still not enough. And so how, when we talk about the cycle of poverty, when we talk about uplifting our communities, when we talk about making investments in people who are furthest away from justice, this is who we're talking about. Because we can't do any of that work until we make these investments, until we close this gap. And so I think Mayor Ginther, actually, we were on a panel where we talked about just this thing. As an employer, each one of you has the opportunity to look at your staff and to figure out, you can do this department by department, you can do this for your entire company, do an analysis of what people make, because you will be surprised. You'll be surprised at what the gap is. And I think that for many folks, especially for our leaders in companies, you are so focused on the bottom line, focused on the ideals of your company, that you're not looking at the day-to-day. And so doing that analysis is one quick way. We'll talk a little bit more about what each of us can be doing, because whether you're a business owner, a legislator, or a citizen, there's things that each of us can do to help to close the pay gap. Throughout the course of the next year, our office is definitely looking at what we can do to close the gap for women. We'll be actually having a series of town halls to talk about this issue, to understand, because there's two ways to create change. It's changing minds and hearts, and the secondly is it's system change. It's how do we have those regulations in the system where we're providing equity for all.
Well, thank you. Claudia, can you tell us what motivated you to sign the Columbus Commitment Pledge and address the gender wage gap?
Of course. So to add on to a lot of the great information that Lourdes has already provided, when I heard about this initiative, I was very surprised. I had no idea that this was a thing in the United States. I think a lot of times when many of us that come from other countries or are children of immigrants, you think of coming to the United States, to a land of equality. You think of coming to the United States for a land of opportunity. So when I heard that this was a thing, I'm like, okay, what is it that we do on both ends, on both as a business owner through La Mega Media and through the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce? Our responsibility is to educate the community and understand that it is a thing. And I think a lot of the conversations that I've had has been with business owners that don't even realize that they're doing it, you know? And I think that that is a big part of the reason that I was motivated to become a part of this, because I do think it's important that our business owners understand. Within La Mega Media, I've met a lot of the working class community that we have, and I have found very interesting that there's a lot of women that are in blue-collar jobs, whether they're painting, they're on roofs, they're in construction, they're in cleaning. They're in a lot of these jobs that we tend to think that are more male-dominant jobs, and they are getting paid less. And I had no idea, and they had no idea, you know? But as we communicate with each other and we increasingly become those heads of households, like, you know, Lourdes has explained, there's communication. And the part that I find the most interesting is that in a huge percentage of the time, the business owners don't realize that they're doing it. You know, it's just sort of like they kind of say, well, it's lack of experience, or it is, they assume things, you know, you've been out of the workforce for X amount of years, so we're starting you off here, and that has nothing to do with it. You know, we should be all about the people. You know, I've been involved with this initiative for a few years now, and the first year I was all about let's get women business owners on board. But now, you know, and I think we haven't done a great job of it, but I would love to see more male signers, more male business owners, because I do think that it is important that we all understand. We're women, we know. Like, we know that this is happening, but do our male counterparts know that it's happening, and how can we get more males involved in this initiative? So that was my biggest motivator to becoming involved. That is why, in our company in La Mega Media, we have more females than males. We've got to work on that too. They're all, a lot of them are here, and now we need to balance it out. It used to be very male dominant, now it's women dominant. That wasn't on purpose, but again, it's a matter of education, and that has been my biggest motivator for this initiative and for everything that we do.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is Lourdes talk about companies not even knowing that they're doing it. You're talking about education. So Ronnie, knowledge is power. What are some resources in the community that employers and companies and businesses can tap into to help them with this next step?
Yes, Lily. So in order to eliminate or to begin to eliminate the pay gap, we need to make sure that we take that first step, right? Employers need to be able to know what resources are out in the community, as well as job seekers. So even though this is not the only resource, one of the resources that employers can take advantage of are the Ohio Means Job Centers that are located around the state of Ohio. There are approximately 88 Ohio Means Job Centers located in each county, but for today, I'm going to focus on Franklin County. Franklin County's Ohio Means Job Center is located at 1111 East Broad Street. It's right there, a couple of blocks away from downtown Columbus. And there are many, many different resources that employers can take advantage of. They do have monthly hiring events that are virtual, and they also have Thursdates, that's what they call them, dates for employers, and those are in person, and those are held on Thursdays, and it's an information and application session that highlights an employer every week. So make sure you contact them to be one of those employers that gets highlighted every week. Also, employers can take advantage of learning about labor market information and trends, and understanding the current wage and hiring needs here in the metropolitan statistical area of Columbus. There's also in-person targeted events that we have, as well as large-scale hiring events. So it can be small and intimate, and it can be large with several employers being involved. There's on-the-job training opportunities as well, and those are opportunities to skill up candidates who are lacking work experience or specialized skills for a position, but they would be a great fit. So how can we help that person be successful in their position? There's a shared salary plan. Candidate is permanent. He or she is a permanent employee on day one. So there's incumbent worker training as well, financial opportunities to share the cost in upskilling folks, and apprenticeships. We can't forget about apprenticeships. So again, Claudia mentioned how there are women that are working out there. Even the Columbus Women's Commission has made great strides in working with apprenticeships for women to be able to eliminate that wage gap here in Central Ohio.
Okay. Well, we talked about resources for employers. So what are some resources for job seekers and employees who need to know what the current wage raises are for their salaries? How can they seek that information? Do you have any resources for those?
Yes. As I previously mentioned, there's also resources for job seekers. So before I move on to the job seekers, however, I do want to say that the Ohio Means Job Centers can help you as an employer actually write out your post, your job post, right? Help you think about what wage should be paid for that particular position. So those are also opportunities for employers that may not even know where to start to write up a job posting, right? Also, there's OhioMeansJobs.com where employers can post their positions on there as well. So job seekers, there's workshops available to everyone. This particular Franklin Ohio Means Job Center here in Columbus is open from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And there are Spanish-speaking individuals there, so all are welcome. They also allow at no cost, there's no cost to the job seeker. They allow folks to come and scan, fax, print, use their resource room, their internet to be able to search for jobs. There are workshops offered in hybrid models. There's virtual opportunities as well as in-person opportunities. And so There's a lot of different services that are available from over 15 community partners here in Columbus alone. There are individual employment development plans. So you start here, how do you get to where you want to go, right? You need to have that path. So you do get an opportunity to get an individualized employment opportunity plan there. An overview of the job market, the labor market. So you want to be, I don't know, you want to be an underwater basket weaver. Does that mean that the underwater basket weaver is going to go ahead and pay you what you need, you know, to be able to take your family ahead, get your family ahead? No. Well, guess what? The labor market trends say underwater basket weaving isn't hot right now. So something similar could help you get there, right? So all of those different types of assistances are available there. Resume writing, mock interviews. And last but not least, access to training and skill development opportunities, as well as wraparound supportive services.
And I want to add that one of the things that we found working with the Latina Mentoring Academy is how many women don't negotiate their salary. I cannot express enough. Being in HR too, I sit on the other side of the table and I'm like, oh, please negotiate your salary. Please ask for more. You know, so I implore women to, if you're uncomfortable, if you don't know how, you know, at the state, Franklin County, city, there's workshops, there's tools that you can tap into to learn how to negotiate your salary. That is you have to be your own advocate. So Lily, tell us, why is Latina Women Equal Pay Day so important? Why are we here?
Well, the main reason is because we care for equal pay for equal job, and it's that simple. Although, when we look at this, we need to understand what is the environment where we have to function. And the reality is that many people tell us, wait until 2050 when we will become a country of minorities. We don't need to wait that long to get there. We know that by the year 2050, 47% of the population will be non-Hispanic whites, but we will have about 29 to 30% of the population of our entire country who are going to be Hispanics. And this bears the question, what is that going to look like if we are not making today the investment on our future workforce, on our future leaders, on the people upon whose shoulders we will stand? And that is a question that bears some deep, deep commitment and soul searching from all of us. When we come closer to Ohio, I don't know how many of you know that we have more than doubled in the Hispanic community since the year 2000. As a matter of fact, we are close to the 500 million mark of Hispanic Ohioans. That's 500,000. When we consider that alongside with our Asian Pacific Islander community, African immigrants and refugees, we form a strong front of over 1 million people in our state. And what do we know about this country, and what do we know about that spirit of the entrepreneur and the new Americans? We live the American dream, and it is so much alive today, just as it was when many of your ancestors came to this country. So all these numbers matter a lot, especially because when we consider what is the median age of Latinos and Latinas here in Ohio, we are very young. Our median age is 26.9 years old, when the average median age of the entire population is 39 years. So that means that we are a thriving young community that is ready to take our place in society. As far as businesses go, the state of Ohio has over 20,000 Hispanic businesses. And many of those businesses are micro businesses. Many of the Latinas that are in this room will be able to tell you a story about a woman who finally said, enough is enough. I cannot make it in the real market world, in the real private sector, in the real any of those things. I am going to start my own thing. And so we know that we have a lot of micro enterprises that are happening across the state of Ohio. And we have over 2,000 Hispanic businesses in Ohio that have employees. So if we have about 18,000 that do not have employees, that gives you a measure of the potential that we have as a community. Something that is also really important, as I mentioned, we are a young community. And that means that we have a lot of people joining the workforce. There are over 220,000 Hispanics that are part of our civilian labor force. Almost half of the population in Ohio of Hispanic origin. So in other words, this matters a lot because the future of Ohio and of our country stands on our shoulders. And it depends upon our investment in this young and vibrant population, what we will be able to see in just 10 or 15 years down the road.
All right, thank you so much. Before I go through the rest of the questions that we have planned, you're here to learn how to get your business on track as far as closing that gap or maybe negotiating salaries on your own. So we want to open it up for any questions that anyone in the audience may have at this time. Anybody? Okay. I'll try again later. All right, Claudia, how does it make you feel to know that our local community is working towards closing this wage gap?
So it makes me feel really proud. And to be honest, a few years ago, very surprised. Because I've been in Ohio now for almost 19 years. And when I first came here, I didn't realize that there were other Latinos in the state. And throughout the years, the community has grown a lot, but as a percentage, it hasn't grown as much as it should. So the fact that we are acknowledging a Latina Equal Pay Day makes me extremely proud. It makes me extremely proud of living in a city and in a community that cares, that acknowledges that we're here, that understands the vibrancy of our community and the differences that not only that we represent because we're a Latino community and we come from a bunch of different backgrounds, but also our educational backgrounds and the things that we provide to the community. So I think that is, I feel not only proud, but I feel like it is time for us to get together and make that change. We've kind of talked a little bit about, what it's like to, how can we make a difference as a business? How can we provide this education? I think that it is really a matter of us setting that example and understanding that we, not only what we do as leaders or as business owners, but within our families, especially those of us that come from Latino backgrounds where we're not taught to negotiate. As women, we're taught to be the providers of the family. We're the caregivers. We're raised to be the wife and the mother. We're not necessarily raised to be that negotiator. And for those of you that are here that do have children, and especially those of you that are from Latino backgrounds like us, we need to instill that in our children. Lily mentioned something earlier about negotiating, and I learned that as a business owner. I had no idea that I should have been negotiating prior to that. When I became a business owner and I started interviewing people, I had very strong women working very hard to make the money that they deserve to make. And honestly, when I compare, to some of the people that I had worked with in the past, they probably deserve more because they bring so much to the table. Because it's not only the education, but it's also that ability to care that you're just brought up with because you're also that person at home. So I think that if we leave with anything today, it's really, if you're a business owner, to be knowledgeable about this, if you're a community leader, to provide the education. But if you're here because you're interested in the subject, we need to really make sure that our families, our children know that this is something that we need to work on.
Thank you. All right, so let's go to you, Dolores. Tell us how bridging this gap can benefit our city. Talk a little bit about next steps, legislation. What is the city working on? I know you touched a little bit about it earlier, but tell us a little bit more.
Absolutely. So there are about 65 million Latinos in this country, as Lily stated about what in the state of Ohio, close to 1 million. So with the buying power holistically of $2.5 trillion, that's with a T, trillion dollars, right? So when we think about, again, when we make investments to the people furthest from justice, all boats rise. So I want to shout out one of my fellow council members and one of my partners who I know is committed to this cause as he chairs economic development for City Council and also small business, minority small businesses. Just the other day, Council just passed a piece of legislation which raised anybody who's working with us, who's getting an incentive from the city, they have to start paying their people more. We're seeing this, yes. And we're seeing this commitment with our union brothers and sisters who made it so that everyone has to make the threshold, whether you are a man or a woman, whatever your background is. They raised how much they need to pay their workers, right? And they raised this. This is a policy across the board. And so our people just need to make more. I mean, I'm going to say that point blank. And I know business owners, I'm going to put the onus back on you because you are the experts. All of our people just need to make more. People need to make more money. Everything costs more. Rent costs more, to buy a house costs more, to buy groceries, we're sitting in a grocery store, costs more. And when I go back to that buying power, that $1 trillion, anybody who had a Latina mom knows that who was buying all the groceries in your house? Who was making the decisions for you? You wanted those new zapatos, those new cute jeans? Who was making that decision, right? So we are the decision makers. So when you think about what this does for our community, when you start talking about Intel that will bring in the entire economy of Dayton to Columbus, that means nothing unless we really get our people into those jobs that pay them equally, no matter who you are. And so I will say one thing, and this is a challenge, is that for our employers who signing is just the first step. It's about staying true to that commitment and looking across the board. We have had a Paycheck Fairness Act in Congress and in the House that for years that was stalled and then failed. And it failed because Republicans did not believe that this was an issue that they wanted to push forward. The act is really about not asking you what your salary was when you apply for a new job. Because if you're already behind, guess where the starting point is? It is not going to be altruistic to say, oh, it looks like you made way less, Lourdes. We should pay you way more, right? They're going to start from what you bring to the table. And so that's part of the system change that we need to make. And in the state of Ohio, unfortunately, our legislature ties our hands, but we need to start getting real creative about what we can do locally, which is why this commitment is so important and why this city council is committed to understanding what we can do in the city of Columbus to protect our folks and to close that gap. So you have that commitment from us. But each of us can make that call to our senators, to our Congress folks, and say, what are you doing today? Because those calls matter, because that conversation matters. Every call that comes into my office, we calculate those calls, and when we start to see those trends, we start to begin to address them. We start to have conversations. This motivates people. So even if this did not pass now, that doesn't mean it's dead in the water. That just means there's more work for us to do collectively. So that's the first thing. Secondly, again, with our employers, I implore you to do a review of the folks in your companies. Start small, start department by department. And again, I would say start with your lowest hanging fruit. When we were having the town halls to talk about raising the gap, what we heard from employers was that when you pay people more, they are more committed. They are more committed because they want that good paying job, right? They want to stay. You get a different kind of level of commitment from the employees that you are employing. So just paying people more makes sense. I cannot say it enough, right? It is a good business practice, and we heard that straight from business owners. Paying people more in the end is actually a cost benefit to us as an employer. And then lastly, the thing that I would say is going back to what Lily said before, is that as women, we also need to provide spaces to educate women. We need to provide spaces where women can learn to negotiate for themselves, because that is the first step. Like, we need to meet people halfway, right? If we're asking people to pay us more, we need to go in understanding that we are worth more. Part of Latina Equal Pay Day, the word is págame,
Right.
lo merezco, pay me, I deserve it. If there's something that you need to leave with is, pay us, we deserve it. Pay me, I deserve it.
And you know, I want to kind of add something to that. For those of us that are Latinas, we're used to going to El Mercado, you negotiate the price.
Right.
We know how to do it. Do it with your work also. That's...
Thank you so much, ladies. We truly appreciate all the knowledge that you have given us and your time. If you all have thought of questions, we'll be here afterwards. Feel free to come to us, and we'll be happy to have discussions with you afterwards. And now I am turning it over to Ms. Shannon Ginther.
Thanks again for all of your insights. I love the comparison to the market, right? You negotiate there, you negotiate for yourself. Couple people want to make sure we recognize Councilmember Nick Bankston, School Board Member Ramona Reyes. Thank you for being with us today and your commitment. So a couple things I just want to wrap with in terms of how to get started. We heard a couple of these things, but let's just kind of wrap it up because it really is this simple. Look, if you're an employer, look at your data. If there's disparity, change it. If it's hard for you to do it in one budget year, do it in 2 budget years, 3 budget years, whatever it is, make the commitment, stay with the commitment. Meaning, if you do it once, but you don't have systems in place to keep it going, you're gonna be right back in a disparity 2 years later. So start to look at those systems. The other thing is remove the requirement for prior salary history from your application process. The city has done it, lots of our adopters have done it, do it. There is no reason, as we talked about, to perpetuate inequity. And then lobby federally. Let our federal legislators, Democrats, Republicans, all of them know this is an issue to all of us. Women are Republicans, they are Democrats, they still deserve to be paid equally. If you are an employee, ask, and you're negotiating for a new job, ask what the job pays. When they say, what do you make? You say, what does the job pay? Ask them if they are signers of the Columbus Commitment, if they're here locally. Because if you see that there is a commitment by this business, you will know that they are actually committed to this. And then also advocate for yourself, negotiate. Don't assume that the first offer they give you as a woman is what the job pays. So, some takeaways from today. Again, thank you to our panel. Before we go, I would like to invite up the owner of La Plaza Tapatia, Griselda Gonzalez, just to say a few words, close us out. Thank you so much for having us. We were here a couple years ago on this date, and the work you have done here for this community is amazing. This is beautiful. So thank you for having us.
No, actually, thank you.
Muy buenos días tengan todos ustedes. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming La Plaza Tapatia International Supermarket. Estoy muy contenta de recibirlos aquí y que haya una comunidad que proteja el valor de la mujer.
I'm very happy to receive you here and that there is a community that protects the value of women.
Las mujeres estamos preparadas no nada más para tener hijos y para darles todo lo que necesitan. También tenemos la preparación para ser las mejores emprendedoras y las mejores trabajadoras.
Women, we are prepared not only to give birth and to have children, but we're also prepared to be the best business owners and the best workers.
Muy contenta de que haya una comunidad latina que represente a la mujer y que diga la mujer vale y la mujer puede ser igual que un hombre.
I am very happy that there is a Latino community here that can stand up and say We as women are valued, we as women are worth it, and we can be the same as any man.
Gracias a todos los que han trabajado arduamente para llegar a este momento y para tener ahorita esta comunidad latina. Les agradezco bastante.
I'm very thankful to have achieved this moment and that you guys are here supporting this initiative. Thank you so much.
La Plaza Tapatía se compromete igual a tener la igualdad para la mujer y que valga su trabajo. Gracias.
La Plaza Tapatía is also committed to women equality and to value everybody's work here. Thank you.